Hey there, YouTubers. It's me, Varric Shadows again, and coming at you with another deck profile. Thanks to the people who've actually watched and commented and liked my other video. Still pretty new at this. I know my video and sound aren't the best, but I'm hoping to fix that here soon. I'm hoping here within the next week or so to get my new binders in, so that way I can do my binder videos. So anyone who wants to do trades can just shoot me a message or whatever. But for now, here is my Constellar deck profile. This is just my first version of the deck. There's nothing super intense about it yet. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to play it. But here's my lineup for Constellar monsters, and we'll start off with two Constellar Sheridan. Sheridan is like your elemental hero Stratos of the deck. He searches out all your other Constellar monsters. He's a really good searcher. The only downfall I have with him is he's only a 3-star and his attack stat's not that good, and you don't get his effects when he's flip face up, so he kind of has that downfall. Aside from that, he's still a pretty good card. Next up, I run two Constellar Sombre. Sombre is a really boss monster late game. She's just like Evil Swarm Cerseian. You banish a Constellar from grave, add one from grave to hand, and she gives you an extra normal summon. So she lets you go into XZs, and she's just really good late game. Using her and Kaus, you can get some good Leviair plays off going into like a double XZ. So yeah, she's a really solid card. Next up, I'm not a huge fan of this monster, but she's needed, and that's double Constellar Algiady. She's a 4-star spellcaster light. When she's normal summoned, you can special summon a 4-star Constellar monster from your hand. She's fairly good. The fact that she can be effect Veiler just kind of hurts the deck, because you go into her, your opponent hits Veiler or their breakthrough skill, and it's like, oh crap, I've got a 1600 monster out there and she's about to get run over. You just know it. And then for the better version of Algiady, you got triple Constellar Pollux. Pollux, unlike Algiady, he can't be effect Veilered, because the whole ruling with him and Evil Swarm Caster is that they create a condition. So even if you Veiler them, it still doesn't matter. Their effects created a condition on the field that is going to happen no matter what. And then for the star of the deck, which honestly I think is the boss, is Constellar Kaus. He's a light beast warrior, 1800 beater, which is nice, but his effect is where all of his true power is at. He can reduce or increase a Constellar monster's level by 1 twice per turn. So he not only can pump himself, he can pump up every other monster on the field, or even if you're going for the rank 3 plays, pump him down. So that's it for my Constellar monsters in lineup. I main deck one Veiler. A lot of people are like, I don't know why you'd want main deck Veiler. There's a lot of decks out there that's not going to help you out a lot. Well, I found it helps out in situations where you're just going up against those big monsters like Dragosac. It's like, oh, I'm going to Veiler it so you don't get your tokens, and then I can Dark Hole next turn or whatever I need to do to get around it. So yeah, he's solid. So then next up, one Honest. It's a light deck. If you don't run Honest with the majority of light monsters, I'd kind of question your playstyle. Next up in my lineup, which most people I've only seen run one of this, is double Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear. Anyone who's played against Fire Fist or plays Fire Fist knows this card is just so broken. The fact that you can go into Tenki, search him out, normal summon him, pop your opponent's monster, swing direct, and then just set another Tenki is ridiculous. So overall, Bear is one of those really good monsters. He helps you get around some of the more problematic cards like Ophion, Big Eye. He's just solid. And next, my personal tech, I use one Photon Thrasher. He goes into some really good XZ plays. He really doesn't inhibit you all that much because he's got a 2100 attack, so even if he's the only thing you have, he's liable to stay on the field, especially with the trap lineup you've got. And that's it for my monsters. Next up is my spells. I run triple Fire Formation Tenki. This card, you can search out Kaus with it, you can search out Bear with it. It's a good card, gives him a 100 attack point boost. So honestly, there's nothing really wrong with it. Next, one Rhoda, because you really like having Pollux in hand, and since he's a warrior, Rhoda's limited to 1, and it's one of the best searches for warriors in the game. Then your basic double Pot of Duality, just for consistency. I run the Trium, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm. Just these cards are so good this format, you can't really not run them. And then I use one Forbidden Lance. I've seen people use Dress. Yes, it stops destruction from other card effect. I just prefer using Lance where, yeah, I lose out on being protected from monster effect, but it stops any other kind of card effect that would hit my monsters from spells and traps. And since this deck just absolutely hates the opponent's back row, like Torrential, BTH, Compulses, even Fiendish Chain, I run triple MST. It's just gotta kill that back row. And then that's it for my spells. And then for my trap lineup, I run the Solemn Duo, one Solemn Judgment, one Solemn Warning, one Mirror Force for just general protection against opponent's attacks. One Starlight Road. This card is really good, stops some of those big destruction cards like Dark Hole and Heavy Storm. I've honestly been thinking about taking it out for XYZ Reborn once I get my hands on a couple, because you can go into some ridiculous plays, which I'll go over here in a little bit. You've got my favorite 6 traps in the game right now, double BTH, double compulsory evacuation device, and double Fiendish Chain. Honestly, as I said in my other video before, those 6 traps are just, they're so easy to side out, and they're just so destructive against some of the most meta decks out there. And so that's it for my main deck. Next up is my extra deck. So for my Constellar as an extra deck, I won one Constellar Perespi. He used to be called Beehive. Honestly, he's the monster you go to if you can't destroy something by card effect or anything along those lines. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go Perespi, detach, swing for pump up an extra 1,000 just to get over some big beat stick monster that you normally couldn't. So I only run one of him just for that matter. I run 2 Constellar Omega. Omega is like a Forbidden Lance for all Constellars without the attack point reduction. And he's a solid card, protects you from Mirror Force, and yeah. Next up is my personal favorite, and I think one of the most boss monsters in this deck is Constellar Palladius. Now, Palladius' effect, if you don't know, is once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach material to return 1 card on your opponent's side of the field to their hand, which honestly in this meta is just ridiculous. Because the fact that it's not just during your turn, you can do it during either player's turn, and it's a quick effect, which is really nice. So I definitely run 2 of them. I've seen some people run 3. I just think 3 is a little overkill when you can use some other XZ monsters to help you out. Then I run the next boss monster in this deck, which is Constellar Ptolemy M7. I run 2. And yeah, his effect's great, and most of the time you're not going to be able to hit him with just the 2 level 6 monsters. But, so you're going to use his secondary effect where you can overlay him on top of a Constellar XZ monster. The only downfall with that part of his effect is you can't use his effect that turn. But for the most part, you're just getting a free 2700 beat stick that, as long as you can protect it, you'll get its effect next turn. So he's still a pretty solid monster. Next up, one Levier, the Sea Dragon. I only use one rank 3 XZ in this deck. Yes, I can hit them frequently, but it's not necessary. That, and because Levier returns banished monsters, he combos really well with Constellar Sombre. Then for some of the basics, Maestroke the Symphony Dungeon. I think he's one of the best XZs out there in the game right now. The fact that he can negate his own destruction by detaching a material, and that he's a Book of Moon by detaching a material, it's just too good. Next up, Starliege Paladinamo. Not all decks can use it because the fact that it takes 2 light monsters, but he's a really good card this format. He negates monster effects and drops their attack to 0, so it's just a free 2k direct. On top of it, whenever he's destroyed on Sent to Grave, you get a draw card, which honestly isn't a bad effect. He's only a 2k beater, but his effect more than makes up for that. And then, right now, I run one Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King. I don't use him so much for his search effect. His search effect is nice on occasion where I can pull out the Formation Tenki and search another Kaos or a bear, just depending on what I need. But the main thing I use him for is his global negate effect. Because it's like, oh, Tiger King, so you've got, I don't know, say they have Stardust Dragon, and you've got a bear in hand, so it's like, oh, detach from Tiger King, negate its effect. It's normal bear with a Tenki, activate Tenki, Surge Cow, send Tenki to grave, pop Stardust, and you can swing direct with both your monsters. So yeah. And then next up is number 16 Shockmaster. Anyone who can easily hit Shockmaster and utilize him should definitely. He's one of the best cards in this format. The fact that he can negate anything for an entire turn, and then as soon as you get him next turn, say your opponent sets cards face down, you can just detach and say traps, and they can't do anything about it. So he's a good card. He's only a 2300 beater, but still, with that effect, he's worth running. And then one Vylon Disigma. Disigma, this format, I've been tempted to take it out, but there's some situations where it's like they've got a Dragosack or they've got something that I just can't push over because I don't have a Kaus or I don't have to pump up to 5 or whatever. So Disigma is just, oh, detach, I get a free take on your monster, and I still get a swing direct. So it's a really nice card. Next up, to use Valor to its most potential, I guess you could say, I use one Ally of Justice, Catastor. Still, like I said, this is still the first build of the deck, so it's not finished. But it's a really good card. Yeah, it's kind of useless against Evil Swarms. Well, as anyone who plays the game a lot knows, Evil Swarms are only good as their matchup. Constellars don't special summon 5 or higher a lot. So most of the time you're not even going to hit this card against Evil Swarms. You're going to go Pollux Kaus, pump 5, overlay, Palladius, detach, bounce their Ophion so they don't have it on the field anymore, and it's not like their Infestation Pandemic can stop it. And then, since we do run Starlight Road, I want one Stardust Dragon. And so yeah, and it's really good. Negates destruction effects, 2500 beater, as everyone knows. So one card that I've really been thinking about running in this deck that I'm not sure if somebody wants to comment or tell me how it works. Been debating taking out the Starlight Road and where is it? One of the MSTs for running double XZ Reborn. And the reason why, because it just sounds like a broken combo to me, is when you have this guy in your graveyard, it's like, okay, so you've got your one XYZ Reborn set. And your opponent's like, okay, I'm going to hit MST on your one back row. It's like, okay, I'm going to chain XYZ Reborn, bring Palladius back to the field, and he's sitting there with the material. So they have to rethink their entire play. And honestly, that's why I think XYZ Reborn could be really broken, is the fact that you can chain it and its effect isn't going to be stopped, and you get a free monster like Palladius that's going to be, oh, you've got a monster, and well, now that it's special summon, detach, bounce your monster, what are you going to do about it? So if anyone's got a couple of those, I'm willing to trade for them once I get my trade binder video uploaded, see what I have, and just shoot me a message. And that's it for this deck profile.